I'm 104 years old, and if there's one thing I've learned in a century of living, it's this. The questions that torture you at 25 are not the ones that matter at 104, but you don't know that when you're 25. I didn't. In 1946, I came home from World War II. I was 25 years old. I had survived D-Day. I had survived the Battle of the Bulge. I had watched friends die in front of me. And I came home to Pennsylvania not knowing who I was anymore. The war had taken the boy I was and left someone I didn't recognize. I got a job at a factory, 60 hours a week, manual labor, steel beams, noise, heat. I came home every night so tired I could barely stand. And I had no idea why I was doing any of it. No purpose, no community, no sense that any of this hard work meant anything. If I could sit down with that 25-year-old version of myself today, there are 3 things I would tell him. 3 things about purpose, loneliness, and hard work that took me 80 years to understand. Maybe you're 25 right now, maybe you're 35 or 45, maybe you feel the same way I did. Lost, alone, working hard for nothing. So let me tell you what I wish someone had told me. A study came out recently, McKinsey. They found that 56% of people in their 20s today feel like their life has no purpose, more than half. Another study said only 32% feel engaged in their work. Almost half are questioning whether they even want to have children. When I read these numbers, I thought about myself at 25. And I realized something. I felt exactly the same way. 56%. That was me. I just didn't have the words for it. When I got off that troop ship in Philadelphia in 1946, I walked down the gangplank carrying a duffel bag and a helmet I couldn't bring myself to throw away. I still have that helmet. It's in my closet. I don't know why I kept it. Maybe because it's the only proof that the worst years of my life actually happened, that they weren't just a nightmare. I came home and nobody wanted to talk about the war. My mother hugged me, my father shook my hand, and then we sat down for dinner like I'd been gone for a weekend. They asked me if I was hungry, if I needed new clothes, if I wanted to go to church on Sunday. Nobody asked me what I'd seen, what I'd done, who I'd lost. So I didn't tell them. I got the job at the factory because that's what you did. You came home, you found work, you started over. But I had no idea why. Every morning I woke up and thought, what's the point? I'm not fighting for anything anymore. I'm not protecting anyone. I'm just here, existing, filling space, taking up air, making steel beams that'll go into buildings I'll never see, for people I'll never meet. For what? At 25, I thought purpose was something you found, like a treasure buried in the ground. You dig and dig until you hit it, and then suddenly your life makes sense. I was wrong. Viktor Frankl, a psychiatrist who survived Auschwitz, said that man's search for meaning is the primary motivation in his life. He said the people who survived the concentration camps weren't the strongest or the smartest. They were the ones who had a reason to survive. A why. Nietzsche said something similar. He said, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." I didn't know these men when I was 25. But I lived what they wrote about. In the war, my why was clear. Survive. Protect the guy next to me. Stop the Nazis. When I came home, I didn't have a why anymore. And I almost didn't make it. There were nights I sat on the edge of my bed with my father's hunting rifle in my hands. I didn't pull the trigger. Not because I was brave, because I was too tired to even do that. What saved me wasn't finding purpose. It was building it. Slowly, without even realizing I was doing it. I kept going to the factory. I started talking to the guy who worked next to me. His name was Frank. He'd been in the Pacific. We didn't talk about the war. We talked about baseball, about the weather, about his daughter's birthday, small things, stupid things. But those small things gave me a reason to show up the next day. Then I started going to church. Not because I was particularly religious, because it was Sunday and I didn't want to sit alone in my room. And at church, there was a woman. She played the organ. I don't remember the first time I noticed her, but I remember thinking, I want to hear her play again next week. So I went back. That's how purpose starts. Not with a lightning bolt, not with a grand revelation, with small reasons to keep going. A conversation, a song, a routine. And then those small reasons start to connect. They start to build something. Frank invited me to his house for dinner. I met his wife, his daughter. I fixed a broken step on their porch. Then I fixed a table, then a cabinet. Turns out I was good with my hands. I liked working with wood. It was quieter than the factory. I could see what I was building. 6 months later, I quit the factory and became a carpenter's apprentice. And for the first time since I came home, I woke up wanting to do something. Not because it was a grand purpose, because it was mine. C.S. Lewis, a writer I didn't discover until I was in my 50s, said this: "Aim at heaven and you will get earth thrown in. Aim at earth and you get neither." I didn't understand that when I was 25. I thought if I could just find the right job, the right girl, the right life, I'd be happy. But happiness isn't a target. It's a side effect of living for something bigger than yourself. At 25, I was aiming at earth, trying to build a comfortable life, trying to forget the war, trying to feel normal. And I got neither earth nor heaven. I got emptiness. It wasn't until I started building things for other people, fixing things that were broken, that I started to feel like I had a reason to be here. I didn't know it then, but I was aiming at something beyond myself. I was serving. Not in a grand, heroic way, in a small, ordinary way. And that's where purpose lives. In the small, ordinary acts of service that nobody notices but everybody needs. Your generation, the young people today, you've been told to find yourself, to discover your passion, to follow your dreams. And I think that's part of the problem. Because the more you look inward, the less you find. Purpose isn't inside you waiting to be discovered. Purpose is outside you waiting to be built. Through relationships, through work that serves others, through commitments that cost you something. You want to know why 56% of people your age feel like life has no purpose? Because you've been taught that purpose is about you, your happiness, your fulfillment, your self-actualization. But that's not how it works. Purpose comes from dying to yourself, from giving your life to something that will outlast you, a family, a craft, a community, a cause. God. When I was 25, I had no purpose because I had nothing bigger than myself to serve. When I started serving, even in small ways, purpose found me. I didn't find it. It found me. Another study, this one from an organization called Cigna. They found that young people today are the loneliest generation in history. 61% report feeling severely lonely, frequently alone, disconnected. I read that and I thought, how is that possible? You have more ways to connect than any generation ever. Phones, social media, video calls. You can talk to someone on the other side of the world instantly. And yet, you're lonelier than people who lived in the 1940s with none of that. You know why? Because connection isn't the same as presence. At 25, I was lonely too. I came home from the war and I felt like nobody understood me. Nobody knew what I'd been through. I'd sit at the dinner table with my family and feel like I was on a different planet. But here's the difference. I didn't have a choice but to be around people. I worked in a factory with 200 men. Shoulder to shoulder, noise and heat and sweat. I went to church on Sundays because that's what you did. I saw my neighbors because we all sat on our porches at night. There was no air conditioning, no television. You either sat outside with people or you sat inside alone in the heat. So we sat outside, and we talked. Not about deep things. About nothing. The Phillies game, the weather, Mrs. O'Connor's tomato plants. But that nothing, that boring, ordinary nothing, was connection. Real connection. Because we were physically present with each other. Aristotle said man is by nature a social animal. An individual who is unsocial naturally, not accidentally, is either beneath our notice or more than human. You need people, not followers, not likes, not comments. People. In the flesh, in the room, in your life. Mother Teresa, who spent her life serving the poorest of the poor, said the most terrible poverty is loneliness and the feeling of being unloved. She wasn't talking about material poverty. She was talking about the poverty of isolation, of having everything except someone who sees you, who knows you, who sits with you. I think your generation has that poverty. You have everything, and you have no one. Or rather, you have people, but you don't have presence. You're connected, but not together. You talk, but you don't listen. You share, but you don't reveal. Dietrich Bonhoeffer, a pastor who was executed by the Nazis for resisting Hitler, wrote something I didn't read until much later in life. He said, "Let him who cannot be alone beware of community. Let him who is not in community beware of being alone." What he meant was this: you need both, solitude and community. If you can't be alone, you'll use people to fill the void. If you're not in community, you'll become self-absorbed and lost. The balance is the thing. But your generation doesn't have balance. You have constant connection and total isolation at the same time, 7 hours a day on screens. And yet, you eat alone. You work alone. You sit in your room alone. And you wonder why you feel empty. When I was 25, I ate dinner with my family every single night. Not because we were close, we weren't. My father barely spoke, my mother fussed, my sister complained, but we were there, together, at the same table, eating the same food, existing in the same space, and that mattered. After I got married, at 51, I ate dinner with my wife every single night for 49 years. We didn't always talk, sometimes we just ate in silence. But she was there, and I was there, and that was enough. She died 3 months ago, car accident. She was getting medicine for me, and now I eat alone. And I would give anything, to have her sitting across from me complaining about the pot roast being too dry. Because loneliness isn't the absence of people, it's the absence of presence. Of someone who's really there, not texting, not scrolling, not half listening while looking at a screen, just there. I think that's what your generation is missing. Presence. You're so connected that you're never really with anyone. You're always half somewhere else, and so is everyone around you, so you're alone together. Which is the worst kind of loneliness, because it looks like connection but feels like isolation. If I could tell my 25-year-old self anything about loneliness, it would be this: turn off the noise, show up in person, sit with people. Even when it's boring, especially when it's boring. Because boredom with another person is better than excitement alone. Join something, a church, a club, a team, a union. Something where you have to show up, where people notice if you're not there. Not online, in real life. Because community isn't built through screens, it's built through proximity, through repetition, through showing up week after week until the stranger becomes a neighbor and the neighbor becomes a friend. Now, the third thing, hard work. I don't even know if I should say this, because I know what your generation thinks of people my age talking about work. You think we're out of touch, that we don't understand, that things are different now. And you're right, things are different, but not in the way you think. A study from Microsoft found that 74% of people in their 20s want to work from home permanently. Another study said 77% prioritize work-life balance over career growth. The average young person today works 32 hours a week. When I was 25, I worked 60. Now, before you roll your eyes and think, "Okay, boomer, here we go," let me say this. I'm not telling you to work 60 hours a week. I'm not telling you that my generation had it harder. We didn't. In a lot of ways, we had it easier. But I am telling you this. The thing you're running from, the hard work, the discomfort, the difficulty, that's the thing your soul needs. Not wants. Needs. Max Weber, a sociologist, wrote about something he called the Protestant work ethic. The idea that work isn't just something you do to survive. It's a calling, a vocation, something that shapes you, something that gives your life dignity. Dorothy Sayers, a writer and theologian, said work is not primarily a thing one does to live, but the thing one lives to do. I didn't read these people when I was 25, but I lived what they wrote about. When I started working with wood, building cabinets and tables and chairs, I wasn't doing it for the money. I mean, I needed the money, but that's not why I kept doing it. I kept doing it because when I finished a table and ran my hand over the surface, smooth and solid and real, I felt like I'd made something, like I'd contributed something to the world, like my existence mattered. Your generation has been sold a lie. The lie is this: if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. That's nonsense. I loved woodworking, and it was still work, hard work. My back hurt, my hands were cut and calloused. I made mistakes, I ruined pieces. I had to start over. But that's what made it meaningful, because meaning doesn't come from ease, it comes from effort, from pushing through the hard part, from finishing something even when you don't feel like it. I watch young people today and I see this obsession with comfort, with balance, with self-care. And I understand it, I do. You're burned out, you're anxious, you're trying to protect yourselves. But I think in protecting yourselves from difficulty, you're also protecting yourselves from meaning. Because difficulty is where character is built. It's where you find out who you are. It's where you become someone worth being. The Bible, which I didn't read seriously until I was older, talks about work as something God gave humanity before the fall, before sin. Work wasn't a punishment, it was a gift. The command was to cultivate and keep the garden, to build, to create, to shape the world. And when you avoid that, when you optimize for comfort and ease, you're not just avoiding pain, you're avoiding purpose. At 25, I hated my job at the factory. It was loud and hot and meaningless. But it taught me discipline. It taught me to show up even when I didn't want to. It taught me that my feelings don't dictate my actions. And those lessons saved my life, because there were plenty of days I didn't feel like living. But I got up anyway. I went to work anyway. I kept going anyway. And eventually the feelings caught up with the actions. I'm not saying you should stay in a job you hate. I'm not saying you should work yourself to death. I'm saying this: do hard things. On purpose. Not because they're comfortable, because they're hard. Work with your hands. Build something. Fix something. Serve someone. Sweat. Get tired. Feel your body ache at the end of the day. Not because suffering is noble, because difficulty builds something inside you that comfort never will. Resilience, patience, humility. The knowledge that you can do hard things, that you can endure, that you're stronger than you think. Your generation wants to work from home in pajamas and still feel fulfilled. And I'm telling you, you won't. Not because remote work is bad, but because fulfillment doesn't come from convenience. It comes from contribution, from doing something that costs you something, from giving your time, your energy, your skill to something beyond yourself. I worked hard for 60 years. And I'm not rich. I didn't build an empire. I built tables. I fixed porches. I made things. And at 104, when I look back, I don't regret the hours. I don't regret the sweat. I regret the years I wasted trying to avoid discomfort, trying to find the easy path. Because there is no easy path to a meaningful life. There's only the hard path. And the question is whether you're willing to walk it. So here's what I want you to hear. If you're young and you feel lost, you're not broken. You're just at the beginning. Purpose isn't something you find, it's something you build. One small act of service at a time, one commitment, one sacrifice, one choice to do something for someone other than yourself. If you're lonely, you're not weird. You're human. But scrolling through your phone isn't going to fix it. You need people. Real people. In real life, turn off the screen. Show up. Sit with someone, be bored together, let it be awkward, let it be slow. That's how connection happens. And if you're avoiding hard work because you think it'll make you miserable, you're wrong. Comfort will make you miserable. Ease will make you miserable. Because deep down, you know you're capable of more. And when you're not doing what you're capable of, you feel it. Like a weight in your chest, like you're wasting your life. You are. Stop optimizing for happiness. Start optimizing for meaning. Do the hard thing. Serve the difficult person. Take the job that scares you. Build the thing that might fail. Because that's where life is. Not in the safe, easy, comfortable path. In the risky, hard, costly one. I'm 104 years old. I don't know how much time I have left. Every day is a gift I didn't earn. But you have decades. 50 years. 60 years. Maybe more. And the question you need to ask yourself is this: what are you going to do with them? Are you going to spend them searching for a purpose you'll never find? Are you going to spend them scrolling through a screen, alone in a crowded room? Are you going to spend them avoiding discomfort, protecting yourself from the very thing that would make you whole? Or are you going to build something? Are you going to show up? Are you going to do the hard thing? I can't answer that for you. I wish I could. I wish I could sit down with my 25-year-old self and make him listen. But I can't. All I can do is tell you what I know. Purpose comes from serving something bigger than yourself. Connection comes from presence, not proximity. Meaning comes from difficulty, not ease. That's it. That's what took me 80 years to learn. And if you take it, if you actually live it, you won't waste the years like I did. You'll build something, something that lasts, something that matters, something worth the hard work it took to make it. So let me ask you, what are you building?